Hi, folks. I'm Gene McLaughlin. I'd like to welcome you to Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. On this program, the mayor has the opportunity to talk to you about things taking place in the township and to introduce you to people making things happen in the township. And today we're pleased to welcome our guest, a gentleman who is definitely making things happen in the township, our Superintendent of Schools, David Cittadino. Superintendent, welcome. Always a pleasure to have you here.
Thanks for
Thank
being
you.
here, Dave.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Always one of my favorite places to wind up on TV.
Well, we'd like you to have you all the
OBTV.
time. Dave, if we could ask you just to sit for a moment. Mayor, one thing, budget.
One thing, Dean, that's all.
One thing, primary, budget passed.
The budget got passed. We're extremely proud again, Gene, of our budget. As everybody knows, when I came into this town, this is my 7th budget cycle.
Right.
The budget was $56 million. Here we are 7 budget cycles later. It's still at the $52 million range.
Okay.
So we continue to improve services, reduce spending, and provide value for our taxpayers. We were noted as being the lowest tax town in Middlesex County.
Right.
So we've really turned the corner when it comes to our finances in town here. If anyone wants to see the budget presentation, they can go back to that council meeting and really see it on paper. The way things have changed, the way the finances of this town have changed, and how we have really, got everything under control. Town's running very well now. Property values have gone up.
Yes, I see that.
We continue to be a very good value for your money, and one of the reasons for that is our school district. We have a very good school district. That's one of the things people looked at when they moved to a community. So when you put everything into the equation, low taxes, property values continue to rise, good school system, parks, safe town. One of the safest towns in the state of New Jersey.
I know. I keep saying that. That's good news.
Recognized as being one of the best places in the country to live, work, and raise a family. So you put all that together, Old Bridge is really a good place to be now.
Okay.
And as we say, the future is now.
The future
and
is
Dave
now,
and I
particularly with the
agree
young
on a
people.
lot of things, and we're all concerned about the future and giving opportunity to our youngsters, our young men and women going off to college. That's what it's all about. Making sure they have every opportunity they need to be successful. Their success will be our continued success. So.
Okay, Mayor. Well, thank you. And you're sort of cueing our guest today, Superintendent Cittadino. We had talked off the air about a subject matter for today, and I think we had discussed this entire business of gun violence in the schools. Most recent thing was the Parkland, Florida situation. 17 young people were gunned down. Why is all this happening in the schools? 718 threats, according to Time Magazine, against schools since that happened. Right. What's going on?
The threat piece and everything, I think it's a serious epidemic, obviously, that school districts have to respond to.
Yes, sir.
It's a costly response because you want to make sure that students are safe. I think there's lots of things that play a part into it. I don't have the answers to everything, but I think obviously there's a role the media plays into it, the desensitization to violence from gaming units and so forth. And in states, unlike New Jersey, that have reasonable and smart gun laws, there's a lack of gun laws, and you see where there's access to weapons where students, bring them into schools. We've been obviously very fortunate here in our schools,
yes,
but less fortunate, at the Pathmark situation quite a few years ago.
Right. Well, there's 18 school shootings this year alone,
right.
And we're just a quarter of the way through the year.
Right.
That in itself seems, just outrageous that we have that.
Yeah, it's obviously something that impacts the quality of life within schools, and that's always my concern. There's not a day that I don't think about school safety.
Sure.
When I wake up to the time I go to bed at night, then, what am I doing? What could we do better? And we are very fortunate to have a great relationship with our police department, our township. They're always very open to meeting, getting together, and talking about reinforcing our security procedures and hardening our targets. We've been recognized as having one of the best school policing programs in the state, and from our meetings recently, it's only going to get better and stronger.
Superintendent, the thing with the young people now, this never again movement, question I have is, do you think this is a lasting, informative kind of situation, or is it going to pass with the emotion of the moment? How effective do you think it's going to be? The adults have failed. Are they going to be successful?
Well, I think you can see that, like I said, New Jersey is already actually strengthening their gun laws since Parkland, and we've already had great gun laws here. I think where there has been some impact with this youth movement is in states that had very lax gun laws, and there's already been some change in there. You look at Florida as a prime example. Obviously, it had to be a place where they felt it, they felt the emotion of it, they felt the helplessness of it, and their lawmakers quickly moved to change things there. And I think that is an impact that the adults haven't been able to make even after shootings in Sandy Hook, even after Columbine. So, yeah, I think they're going to have an impact. They've had an impact already, and I think their voice is a fresh voice from the perspective that these young people feel as though they're the victims and no one's given them the voice before.
Could you explain a little bit to our audience what's happening in the Old Bridge school system right now in terms of student involvement, participation in these walkouts? How is that being treated right now in your sphere?
I think that because our administrative team, our educators, even myself included, have a very good relationship with the students. I don't know if it's our presence within the schools, the use of social media to be for them to have a voice and to hear from us. A very comfortable relationship. So even after Parkland, several students reached out to me either via social media or email and said they'd like to get together and have some ideas of how Old Bridge, our students, can respond to these calls for walkouts and so forth. And I got to give them credit. From the moment we began the process, they're very reasonable and had a good head on their shoulders saying, we want to do this the right way. We want to be smart about this. And one of the things that I take away from this, one of the young ladies who organized it, she said, we don't want to go outside because if we go outside, one, it's going to jeopardize our safety in a walkout.
Right. These walkouts, you mean?
Right, doing the walkout and leaving the building. Two, she felt as though by going outside, many of the adults who might view this within the community would say, oh, these are just a bunch of kids who want to get out of class.
Right.
She wanted to make sure that there was no opportunity for people to use that as excuse, that they were able to assemble, and which they did. So the day that they organized one in Old Bridge High School, 11th, 12th period of the day, before the last period of the day, the students gathered in the hallways. They embraced arms to show unity with those students from Parkland who lost their lives. And then students who wanted to participate and know more about how they can get involved were invited to go to the auditorium. Some students just opted to go to their regular classes. But I would say approximately 450 students went to the auditorium. Wow. There they had a registered vote to increase their voice there. Some students made a movie, a little short film about the epidemic of gun violence within schools. Some read poetry, songs.
Really?
Some just spoke. Our own mayor came by to let the students know that their voice is important to him as well. And board members were there. It was a very productive afternoon, I thought.
It sounds like quite an opportunity, Mayor. From a political standpoint, is this going to have any impact, you think, on Washington, on Trenton, to make changes
As
that the
Dave
kids
said,
want?
I think it's more important that it has an impact in other states surrounding New Jersey. As we know, New Jersey has some of the toughest gun laws in the
Yes, sir.
country, and we're not exempt from violence.
No.
But I think Dave hit it right on the head and said these surrounding states, where these weapons are available with very little background check, you can buy them at a garage sale,
Right.
and then they find their way back into the state of New Jersey, and then unfortunately they find their ways into schools. Kids just don't have the, I don't know what, social media, whatever you want to call it. They don't, I don't know, they're not processing right to actually bring that weapon to the school. Some of them, I think they're exposed to the games. They think they can just press a reset button. There's a lot going on, Gene. But politically, locally, we're going to do everything we can to keep our students safe. And I think at the state level, I think there's going to be hopefully we'll get some funding to assist us in keeping our schools safe.
Right.
And at the federal level, that's when they have to step up. When they have all the states,
Right.
all the and say, hey, we need uniform gun laws across the country. That makes sense.
Uniform gun laws.
Uniform
Yes,
gun laws
sir.
across
Yeah.
the country. Because there's no way you can stop a weapon from going, that
Right.
imaginary line that separates New Jersey from any of the states that maybe one or two states away from us where, it's the Wild West. Where
Right.
anything can
I
happen.
know,
And that's the
unfortunately.
way society has grown up in those states. I'm not saying that's a bad way to grow up in some states. But that's just the way it is. Those are the facts. That's reality.
Yeah.
that weapons are available in those states and they can be transported anywhere in the country.
Yeah, they sure can. Superintendent, one thing. Is there any progress being made to identify these young people, these mentally disturbed young people that do get their hands on these weapons and have this violent demeanor? Is there any, how do we identify them? How do we pick them out, these lone wolves?
Well, two things. Mental illness is a serious problem across our nation. One, we have to remove the stigma of mental illness. A lot of times, when we know something, we don't like to talk about it and identify it as to what it really is. But I often say, when someone has chest pains, you don't hide behind it and say, I'm not going to tell anybody about it. You go to someone right away because your heart is a major organ in your body, such as the brain. And when you're having mental illness, it's it's a subject that something is not going right within your brain, and let's get the help that you need. So within our own district, we have a very I don't hide back from any expense and to make sure that we're doing the proper screening for any student who we think might be facing these mental illness challenges. And we have the screenings available. We have doctors on call in which we send them to do so. The second thing we do is we've increased our ability to get intelligence about things out there that might be threats to our school or our community, at least in 3 major ways. And we've invested in this ability to get this intelligence and to screen it and share it with the police department so that we can protect our schools as best possible.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. One other question, if I may, and Mayor, you may want to jump in on this too. What's the role of the parents? How impactful are the parents of these young people? Are they pro-gun, anti-gun? Are they care? Where are they? Mayor, what do you think?
I think the parents play a crucial role,
Right.
and unfortunately, some kids are being grown up in either a single family, or in the case in Florida was no mother and father. His
Yes,
mother,
sir.
I think, believes had just
Yeah.
passed away. So I think it plays a huge role. I mean, growing up here in Old Bridge, we had your parents make you responsible. You started off with, you were allowed the BB gun here,
Yeah.
I mean, if you didn't.
The Roy Rogers BB gun.
And if
wasn't
you,
it?
and the first time you pointed it at someone, your parent took the gun away, and that's it, you're done.
Yeah.
But if you showed you were responsible with that BB gun, you didn't shoot at birds, you just, shot at cans. Then the next step up was maybe you get the smallest shotgun to go hunting, because a lot of people hunted here in Old Bridge when we were
Right.
growing up. So, you had to show that you were responsible with that shotgun. It had to be unloaded, it had to be broken down.
Right.
There was zero tolerance, for your parent to come home and find a loaded gun on your bed, a shotgun.
Right.
It was just you were beaten to death,
Yeah.
and the gun was taken away.
And the parents had a role. What are you finding, Superintendent?
Big role.
Well, I think one of the things that I'm very appreciative of the parents about is a lot of the times we get reports of concerns or threats, that it's a parent who is having those conversations with their child, and the child comes forward and says, I saw something that frightens me, or I saw something I'm concerned about, and the parents right away reach out to us or local law enforcement. So that's important. I think that's the role every parent has. You can't hide behind this sense that every child deserves all the privacy they want.
No.
You have to be, if you're giving them a phone that has a smartphone that has the ability to access social media and the internet, you have to be aware of what's going on there, what kind of messages they're putting out, and be aware of that. You have to make sure that you're seeing what your kids are doing when you're not home, and having those conversations with them. I think of the Columbine incident many years ago, and that wasn't planned overnight. That was planned over months, and kids were in the basement. If I was quiet in the basement for 10 minutes, my mother said, "What are you up to?" She came down. So parents have to be cognizant of what the young people are doing and be part of that. As far as like the mayor had said, we have great. The Constitution is wonderful. It's the one thing that we have that many countries don't have. It's the backbone of our country, and I love the Constitution. And I think everyone agrees that common sense understandings of it and common sense regulations based upon that are smart. So, yes, everybody has the right of freedom of speech, but there are certain limitations on that. Obviously, we all know you can't go and cause panic, undue panic, and you can't, lie about someone if you know it's a lie. And within the Second Amendment too, it talks about the ability to form a militia. Well, good luck at that, forming a militia in this day and age. The one thing I always talk about is that gets neglected in this whole process is the 14th Amendment, which speaks to the fact that no state shall impose a law that deprives anyone the pursuit of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that protects anyone unequally. And I want to make sure that states, again, unlike New Jersey, aren't enforcing one law that infringes upon the life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness for students. Like if you have to go to a school every day and go through a metal detector, that's a quality of life issue, and it's infringing on your liberty. And those metal detectors aren't there to do anything but pick out weapons. So if the weapons are so rampant within your community that you need to have a metal detector, then something has to be done to roll those back and make schools safer.
Okay, thank you, Superintendent. Gentlemen, if I could ask you to just hold your thoughts for a moment. Folks, we're getting ready to take a break right now. Our guest is the Superintendent of Schools, David Cittadino. We're discussing for the moment gun violence in the schools and the student reaction to this whole movement right now. So please stay with us. We'll be back in a moment.
Hey, you.
Yeah, you. Getting that college education? What are you gonna do? Graduate and take some office job? Be like everybody else?
Or will you dare do something different?
Like, be a teacher. You could be my teacher. You got the skills.
The smarts?
Yes, you. You could be the teacher I never forget.
That'd be cool.
Does that corporate job even have recess? What are you gonna make of yourself?
What are you gonna make of me?
Fast-paced family life in need of a slowdown?
Hello, I'm Dr. Spruce. Did you know all those green shapes on maps are parks and forests? It's true. Visit discovertheforest.org and plan to visit a park or forest near you, instead of just wondering what it would have been like.
While the word forest might make you think of distant lands from far, far away, please note parks and forests are closer than you think, which means things like beautiful scenery, fresh air, and family time are also closer than you think.
Take a look under your bed. Find stuff under there? What about jobs? No? Now try your closet. Still no jobs? Just more stuff? Well, you really have both. See, stuff is defined as household articles considered as a group. Sometimes this stuff is no longer needed. Wait, no longer needed? That can't be right. Because remember those jobs you were looking for? Those are really needed, and they're the stuff inside your stuff. Our job is to unlock those jobs, and it starts when you donate your stuff to your local Goodwill. Here's how we do it. When you donate to Goodwill, we sell your stuff to provide job training for people right here in your community. So just by teaming up with Goodwill, you help create jobs. And isn't that worth parting with the leftover keytar from your 80s cover band? Goodwill. Donate stuff, create jobs.
Hi, folks. Welcome back to Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry. Today, our guest is the Superintendent of Schools, David Cittadino. If we can pick up where we left off, gentlemen, and Superintendent, particularly to you, we talked about safety. What is being done now in the Old Bridge school system to ensure safety?
Well, we have done quite a few things. One, every school in Old Bridge has had a site assessment done by our Old Bridge Police Department.
Oh, really?
That was part of our strategic plan this year, and staying on point with our strategic plan has been concluded by our police department. So we have that information, and it gives us a great idea of what we can do to improve and how we can keep our schools safer going forward. We've met with the police department and the mayor's office and looking at shared resources and a shared service agreement that'll increase our school policing opportunities going forward, and we'll take a great program and make it even better. And then we've looked with the Department of Education and ways to harden the entrances from our school.
Yes, sir.
That process has not been fully approved yet, so I'm not going to speak to the details of it.
Right.
But I'm looking to work with the Department of Education and our local police department to harden the exteriors of our building to make it harder to get into them. And lastly, like I said before, we've taken certain measures to increase the amount of intelligence we have coming in of what might be a potential threat to the school or the community, and even to our students in any way they might cause self-harm. So we have a lot more resources using technology as best we can to increase those resources, and I think we're in a good place, but I always want to improve it and make it better.
Have you taken any steps like some communities have of hardened glass or locked doors or things that will lock or
we have
an alarm?
Again, as part of that assessment process, and we partnered with the Department of Education, the state police, to have them do these surprise drills within our schools too.
Oh, really?
And out of that, we've taken some of those suggestions and definitely put them in place.
Okay. Mayor, from your perspective, what do you think of this type of thing?
Well, I think it's got everybody's attention. We're fortunate enough where the state has allowed us to hire another level of armed officers
Yes,
here in
sir.
Old Bridge and around the state. They're going to be called Special 3 officers. We're recruiting them right now to enhance the school system that allows recently retired law enforcement to work more hours. Right now we're limited to what our Special 2s can work. So they'd be able to, but they have to be dedicated to school security. So that's a big tool in our toolbox to be able to use that. And as Dave and I are committed to providing the safest environment that we can provide, along with the OBPD. And we've always been out ahead of the curve here. I think we started our school security right after the Sandy Hook incident. And as Dave said, that's been recognized statewide with the use of Special 2 officers and school resource officers. We're only going to be building upon our existing plan and enhancing it. And I think the parents will appreciate it. I hope the students will also. I think they're going to see more resources, as we like to say, and they will be out there.
Thank you, Mayor. If we can change gears for a minute, Superintendent, you had mentioned to me off camera you'd like to discuss the opioid mandatory sessions you're conducting. Could you go into that a little bit?
Yes. So working with, again, we have a great partnership with the Township Municipal Alliance.
Yes, sir.
And the Hackensack Meridian Healthcare Network and our schools to provide resources, whether it be monetary resources or professional resources to tackle this nationwide epidemic. And I really see it as, a national concern, more so than even, this may sound extreme, but even terrorism. We're losing Americans every day.
I know.
And if we lost the amount of Americans that we lose to an opioid epidemic, to a terrorist attack every day, people would be up in arms. What are you doing? Well, these opioids aren't coming in. This fentanyl, this heroin, is not coming in from, the middle of our country. It's coming in from foreign countries, and they're sending it in because they're making money off it, and it's killing off our resources as far as people, our young Americans, and we have to do something to take a drastic step to increase the value of life and to make sure that young Americans are here to live into their 70s or later. And I'm taking a very aggressive stand on that because, like I said in my letter to the parents, I've been to at least, there's some I couldn't make, but I've been to at least 7 funerals.
I know that has to be rough. That has got to be
of students
dreadful.
who, whether I was their principal at General Salk Middle School or as their principal in the high school, that at some point after graduating high school, they have died of an overdose. And, after the last one, I was there, and, it wasn't from everybody has this belief that, drugs only happen to families and to children who are, don't care and just come from dark places. And it wasn't. This is a well-educated family. Their parents worked in the education system. They had done everything to protect their child, send them to rehabilitation centers. They put themselves into debt trying to get their child healthy. And, coming back to Old Bridge after one day in here and just, had an overdose. And, watching a parent put another child into the ground, I couldn't do it anymore, and I felt like, I'm doing the same thing everybody else is doing. We're putting resources in the classroom. We're having our Too Good for Drugs campaign go in. We're having outside speakers come in talking to the students. I'm educating the teachers and the professionals. What am I not doing? And the one thing I really consistent says, I'm not reaching the parents. And we tried. We had town hall meetings.
Right, I remember.
know,
Yes, sir.
Same 15 parents
Right.
come out
Yeah,
I know.
and
Yeah,
then
we
that's
talked
it. I
about
mean,
that.
with over 9,000 students.
9,000 students, and I had the same 15 people come and use. Something had to be done, and I'm not doing it. I'm not in this position as a popularity contest. If at the end of it they say, he's a terrible person because he made me give up an hour to come to this, then so be it. It helps me know that we did something more than just what everybody else is doing to combat a problem that is nationwide. And so we have an hour-long presentation. Sometimes it runs a little bit long because parents ask great questions.
Yes, sir.
Doug Collier, who is a retired DEA agent, Monmouth University professor, who is an expert in this area, and not telling parents how to parent, but gives them clues, gives them ideas on what to look for to combat this issue before it even enters your household. To give them the names of certain opioids that even are given as prescriptions. One of the challenges I've seen is a young person in middle school in Old Bridge who was already hooked on opioids because found his way into a medicine cabinet with cough syrup with codeine in it. Just one day said, let me try this, and just kind of got hooked. Do we need to prescribe an opioid to a child with a cough? A cough is a natural response to your body to break up mucus.
Right.
Is it a point where we have to prescribe opioids to do that? Mm-hmm. And so I think we need to make better decisions medically as far as who we prescribe them to. Surgeon General says really you shouldn't prescribe an opioid to anyone under the age of 21. Mm-hmm. So we have students who have athletics and they break a leg or anything else. Let's look at other resources that we have before going right to prescribing an opioid, because the impact can be devastating to a family.
Yeah, that impact seems to be greater with the opioids even than with the gun violence. I mean, it's just a huge issue. If we can close, Superintendent, on a more happy note.
Right.
You recently returned from a trip to Germany with the exchange students. Tell us
Yes.
about that, if you would, the whole exchange process.
Well, I think one of the things that makes Old Bridge Township Public Schools a really special place for our students is that we have such a robust education program with our world languages. Our students, since I've been superintendent, have traveled to France, China, and Italy, and Germany. And the German program is a true exchange program where in the fall, for 2 weeks, German students come here. And in the spring, our students who received the German students to their household, they go to Germany. We spent 2 weeks in Duisburg, which is a little small, used to be a coal mine city, a little south of the Munster area, not far from the Netherlands border, and really got to go to school with these students for a week because they were on spring break the prior week. We traveled with them for 2.5 days in Berlin. We walked along the wall. We saw the history of East Germany and West Germany, and many of the students, have no idea of what that was like back then. I remember watching the Olympics and watching the East Germans and the West Germans compete. We went to Amsterdam. The students really took in the culture of Germany, and the people from Germany couldn't have been more hospitable and wanting to share that rich history with us. And I'm grateful for it. And one of the other things that kind of wraps us up on a great note is the work we're doing within our schools to keep them safe with our police department and our township couldn't be better. We were recognized this past year as the 8th safest school district in the state of New Jersey, over 350 school districts. We're number 8 in the state in keeping kids safe.
For our size.
Yeah, for our size, that's
The
amazing.
third largest, yeah.
And one of the third largest. So I'm confident we're going to go up that list and be even safer going forward. And this guy and me, we're not going to rest until we get there.
Okay, well, thank you for coming in, Superintendent. We really appreciate you being here today and the great effort you're putting into all of these things we discussed. And Mayor, thank you.
Thank you, Gene.
And folks, this has been Old Bridge Outlook with Mayor Owen Henry for this time. Please stay tuned. We'll see you again next time. I'm Gene McLaughlin. Take care.